Welcome, everybody, to the pre-show for Trending. He says to the one person who knew it was about to go live. So, yeah, let's just queue up. What do we got here? Okay.
This is the riveting moments you want in the pre-show.
Well, that's right.
For Trending.
It's more casual, isn't it?
It really is.
Speaking of casual, Josh, no shirt today.
I did. I thought this is a nice, though, t-shirt. It's black. It fits me well. It's a Mum's Dollar t-shirt that I got from Festival 1.
Mum's Dollar is pretty awesome.
They are pretty awesome. I'm going to show you the back, actually. Again, only can you see this on the stream.
Okay, come on then.
Because the front is quite, it's tidy.
99 to 2009, it says.
Yeah.
Yep. Wow. That's wild.
Yeah.
All right.
A little less formal when you're looking at
That's true. You know, funny story is I actually got a t-shirt myself yesterday I was given.
Yep.
Which I thought about wearing today, but then I decided not to because you had worn a shirt last week.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I thought I won't wear my 200 Muay Thai class commemorative t-shirt today.
I'm so sorry. I thought this kind of distinguishes that you're the show, Andrew.
Oh,
you're the anchor. You're the guy. And I'm in the producer attire.
Look, mate, never let it be said, and I mean this genuinely too. This show is absolutely starts looking at me, but it wouldn't happen without you.
Oh, look.
So, look, I'll say this genuinely. By the way, anybody who's ever thinking about getting into media, I think sometimes you can put pressure on yourself to be this, I got to be the wacky out there, la 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 kind of, personality. It's amazing. The role that you really need is people who can do the, I don't know. I mean, you talk about the idea of anchoring, but you need to be able to have two roles working in a show and be able to pass
synergy.
Yeah, and sometimes when you've got two dominant personalities, it actually doesn't work very well. So, mate.
I'm
Josh,
not a dominant personality. Just ask my wife.
That is true. Is that right, darling? Yes, it is. Okay, thank you.
That's right, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Where are my pajamas? Thank you. Yes, I'll make sure I do the dishes before I go to bed.
Hey,
not that you shouldn't all do the dishes anyway, because it's 2025, for goodness sake. And,
Do you know I have a weird, we talked about this on, dare I say, a different radio station, Life FM. I have a weird habit that if we don't do the dishes that night, I still have to collate them into an aesthetic pile.
That's all right.
Next to the sink.
Well,
this just seems, I just can't leave them scattered.
That's probably better, though.
Yeah.
Of all the flaws you could have.
Yeah, look.
Which you do.
The many
flaws. Funny you say, my wife and I have got into a much more regular habit of cleaning the kitchen, really cleaning the kitchen every evening so that it's all sprayed and wiped down and everything's, off the bench that can be.
Gotcha.
It does feel better, but it is a battle of my will every time.
Yeah.
If it was just me, I can see how easily that would not happen.
By the way, welcome to the pre-show of Trending. Andrew and myself about to go live on air. Of course, the whole show is also live here streaming on Facebook and YouTube. You probably know that considering you are here. Leave a comment below. We're going to go through a lot of the trending stories from the week that was, looking at a bunch of different things. Want to give any spoilers?
I am just loving the diversity of stories that we're covering lately. I feel like there's such a range. And is that symbolic of maybe being a slower news environment right now? Because instead of just relying purely on the Google search trends, we're also looking at other major news services more regularly.
Yeah, quite a bit today, in fact.
They tend to really vary based on their news
demographic
audience. Yeah, their demo. That's a better way to say it.
Yeah. Let's be honest, a lot of these news services are targeted at particular groups.
Oh, they all are. Even we are. Let's be honest, ladies and gentlemen.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. I've said previously that I think what drives people insane about news media more often than not is the pretense of being unbiased. So we give you the unbiased objective truth and everybody else is tainted somehow.
They're lying.
Whereas everybody has a bias. I mean, on Rima, for example, if we were to cover a story about, say, abortion tomorrow, you can probably already guess the perspective we take on it. And that's who we are. That's not something to apologize for. That's just what you'd probably expect. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think being able to just be more upfront about what your values are then is to me, has more integrity than pretending that you are the great unbiased one. I remember once talking to a journalism student. Adorable speaking to a student, isn't it? Back when you were 19 and knew everything.
Oh, man.
And they talked
when you
about
thought
how
uni would have all the answers as well to life. It'd set you up and you'd be like, I know everything. Here we go.
They talked about how, we're trained to not be biased. I'm like, that's adorable. That's adorable. You little 20-year-old.
Yeah.
And then I was prosecuted for assault. No, I wasn't. But,
Things you can only say in the pre-show.
Well, I'd say during the regular show.
True.
You know this to be true.
I can't deny.
Yeah.
You are who you are on air and off air.
And
I respect that about you.
And I take that as the compliment that I know it's intended as.
Are we about to go live?
Nah, not for about, probably a conservative 2.5, maybe 3 minutes.
Man, we got in with a good amount of time today.
Yeah, well, we didn't have to worry about Andrew Urquhart in the studio. He takes a little more time than Di does to organise her stuff and get on out of here. So, yeah.
Legendary broadcaster.
What, and Di?
Yes. Well, both of them.
Both of them. Well,
but I was speaking specifically to Andrew Urquhart. But actually, if we're being honest, Di Campbell.
Yeah. Well, she's 15 plus. I told her once that she's inherited the mantle from Kathy Jenke.
Yeah. Ooh.
Well,
this is all Rima law, by the way, that if you...
Rima law.
This is like inside baseball.
It. Yeah.
A lot of speak here that you're like, if you know, you know. If you don't, you're like, oh, sure.
Kathy Jenke, by extension, is like the Judy Bailey of Christian broadcasting.
Yes.
So who actually took up the mantle? Was it maybe Hillary Barry almost for a little while? And then she kind of decided to step back. I think there was a moment when it felt like it had been passed on to Hillsbaz.
Because to be honest, I know Hillary Barry better.
Yeah, of course. Well, that's it's a bit of a generational thing.
Yeah.
So,
Julie
is there another?
Nah, not real. Not
the same extent, eh?
No.
Because you've only thinking about it tends to be a nightly news anchor who fills that role,
and we don't really have that.
No. Well, you've got Samantha Hayes, but she seems a little bit young to be the mother of the nation. To her great credit, by the way. Then on one, you've only got the one anchor now, don't you? And Wendy
honestly,
Petrie
I couldn't
also.
I couldn't tell you because this is the other thing. We're not really sitting down each night to watch the news.
Is Simon Dello still doing it?
I don't know, bro.
Yeah, right. If you know, answer our question in the chat for this pre-show. Who is the respective mother and father of the nation? Actually, the father of the nation never really been a title.
No.
But I think you can...
Paul Holmes?
He's more of the grumpy uncle.
True.
Certainly a colossal figure. I think he almost went straight to grandparent of the nation.
Yes, yep.
Never really in a...
With every so often something a little bit wacky that's, because he is a grandparent.
The old cheeky darky. Do you guys remember that one? Was he talking about Kofi Annan, I think it was?
I cannot remember.
That cheeky dark. Goodness me. That wasn't that long ago
What about Duncan Garner?
Nah, he's too niche now. Now that he's over on... Is he on the platform now?
Something like that.
Something like that. He was all like after the whole debacle with... Today FM, and he stuck around with MediaWorks for a little while.
Who am I thinking of? New Zealand.
That's a new show segment. Who is Josh thinking of?
Anchors with no context.
Exactly.
Simon Dello?
Well, that's what I said.
Is he
Simon,
the father of the nation?
I just don't feel like I don't have that kind of connection with him.
Yeah, right.
Maybe you need that more, that feminine, I almost want to say maternal, but is that too...
No, I know what you mean.
Again, open to your thoughts on this. Throw it in the chat if you like. We should probably get ready to go live with the rest of the country. So we're going to do that. When next you hear, the country shall join us and we shall regale you with tales of what the world is looking for in their news.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Woo, man, that first note really hits different, doesn't it? Bang! Welcome to Trending, everybody. This is the news that Aotearoa has been searching for, quite literally. What are the stories that the country has gone looking for more information about? Maybe in contrast to what has led your nightly news, or maybe been the lead headline on your major news providers. That's what the show's all about, having a look at what those stories are, seeing what we can learn from them about, well, what interests those close to you. Things that make you go, but we're not going to play that today, Josh, because we have a technical issue we're trying to resolve today. So we thought we'd be upfront and let you know about it already.
Yeah, look, by the way, Mike McRoberts. Sorry, I'm completely off topic, but...
That's great. Yep.
Surely?
Maybe, eh?
Like, would he not be... He's the person who comes to mind.
We were talking just before we came on air in our pre-show about who is the respective mother and father of the nation from a broadcasting point of view. If you go back as far as I do, then maybe Judy Bailey comes to mind for you. There might have been a time when perhaps Hilary Barry was going to take up that mantle for the new generation. But then we were trying to figure out who the father of the nation would be in a broadcasting sense. Like Richard Long, always comboed with Judy Bailey back in the day, but I just feel like just didn't really have that kind of paternal
Je ne sais quoi.
The pathos, if you will. Then we thought maybe Simon Dallow, but same thing. Great broadcaster, been in front of our screens for a long time. So this is like the side quest for today's show. If you want to make a suggestion on who you think the respective mother and father of New Zealand broadcasting is, you can always send it through to us today.
That is right, 8168 with the keyword Rima, or of course, if you are watching at the moment, and so cool to see, there are a few people on the stream at the moment.
Yes!
The technical difficulties that Andrew was referring to moments ago was the fact that we found sound has been dropping out during a couple of the streams. We think it might be due to copyright strikes, so we're just going to try to... I guess play it by ear, as it were.
Yeah, we're going to drop any other accompanying music tracks besides the news stories that we play and see what happens. But the great news is, of course, if you're just listening over the radio, you will be unaffected. And I think YouTube as well is a safer environment for these kind of news endeavors. So with all that said, and now you're up to speed, let's take a look at our first story.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And we're taking a liberty straight off the bat today, because of course it's usually the Google searches or even the most read searches as provided by our major news outlets on their websites that inform what goes into the show. However, this one was so head scratching that we thought we had to talk about it up front and hope that perhaps the searches will catch up to it in future. But DoorDash, this is like Uber Eats, perhaps. I know they do it in New Zealand, but it just doesn't seem to be as popular.
Yeah, well, you kind of almost say, I'm going to Uber Eats something, even if you're using any other provider.
Yeah.
So this is a missing in action, as we call it. A story that we thought for sure would be trending. Turns out is not, but we're going to give it a little bit of coverage anyway. What's going on, Andrew?
Well, rather than hear it from me, let's see what CBS 19 in the States had to say about DoorDash teaming up with Klarna.
Eat now and pay later. There's a new partnership between DoorDash and Klarna. How it works, customers can order food and pay later. Customers who use the DoorDash app will see an option to pay with Klarna. They can pay in 4 equal interest-free payments on a bill of $35 or more. For example, customers also can defer a payment to a time that aligns with their paycheck.
You used to see buy now, pay later used for these bigger ticket items, high-end things like furniture and electronics. The fact that people are using this now for groceries, for gas, for everyday items. I think where it gets tough, though, is you get into this mindset of, oh, I have more room in my budget.
Right. When you really don't.
Exactly.
In the last quarter of 2024, Americans carried $18 trillion in household debt. Klarna says when someone misses a payment, they won't let them continue to defer. In your health news, 8-3.
No, we don't care about your health news. It is the end of the world, baby. These are the end times, and that's how you know it. You can now finance your burrito.
Yeah, if you don't have enough money to pay for your Big Mac right away, no worries. Just lock into a 15-year fixed Mac Attack mortgage with a competitive interest rate of only 9.7%.
Well, don't make me defend this, Josh.
Really? You're going to defend this?
Well, there's no interest rate on it. It is like, what's the one that you currently have in stores that I've never used because I also object to
Afterpay?
Afterpay, thank you. It's Afterpay for food.
Yeah, it's exactly that.
It's 4 payments, interest-free, to maybe subsidize buying like a $30 item. Yikes. That seems like a horrific thing to inflict on the world.
Look, I've got to concur with what that woman said in the video. It makes you believe you have more space in your budget. And it's just a complete and outright lie to yourself. It's you telling yourself a bold-faced lie.
And don't we all lie to ourselves, ladies and gentlemen? Aren't we getting philosophical? So, I mean, your reaction to this, of course, we'd love to hear from you as well today.
Get in touch, 8168 with the keyword REMA, or of course, just leave a comment below if you are watching on the stream. Speaking of the text, though, Phil has got in touch to say Philip Sherry, the father of the nation.
You know what?
I had to Google. I honestly had to Google.
Well, you're too young. And I am also very young, but informed. And that's the difference between the two of us. That's a great comment. We asked earlier on who the father of New Zealand broadcasting might be. Philip Sherry is an outstanding answer.
Yeah, Phil from Whangarei. That's a good answer.
Wonder what made you think of him, Phil? We may never know. It's a mystery. We also suggested, by the way, Duncan Garner, but we thought, nah. For a modern, is he just too young in general?
Yeah, he's like Big Brother.
Could be. Also, you've got Mike Hosking, but I feel like he's a big name, but I feel like you've almost got to be a little bit more
He's in the uncle
centrist
category again.
His views are too well known.
Yeah.
His views, you need to be this kind of almost like a blank slate to which you can...
John Campbell?
Again, other side.
Yeah.
He's the anti-Hosking. So you have a Hosking. Where there's a Hosking, it necessitates a Campbell. Where there is a Campbell,
Neither of these are trending, by the way.
Of somebody else entirely. So all to say, though, in this particular case of DoorDash and Klarna, at least it's not available in New Zealand because...
A to the men.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So then let's get into the stories. And I should say, according to Google... Woo! Was that a sport-heavy week? It was sports-tastic. It was the sport-pocalypse. And so we've tried to sift through and find the non-sport-related stories. It was hard work, man.
Boy, was it ever. In fact, our number one story is still sports-related, and we are going to bring that to you because it was a fantastic moment. If you've got any guesses as to what it might be, feel free to get in touch. 8168 keyword REMA via the text or comment below if you are watching the stream. But this one is sports adjacent.
I like that. It is. It is sports adjacent. And there are many things about the modern world that baffle me, but one of the things that is uniquely... Sometimes you don't have a word. You've just got a reaction that you don't have a word for, is people posting social media asking for privacy. And in this case, it relates to the number 12 searching term in the country, Vanessa Trump.
Okay, so we know Trump. We know Donald Trump, current president of the USA. Why, though, is Vanessa trending?
Well, you see, Vanessa Trump is the ex-wife of Donald's eldest son, Donald Trump Jr.
Ex-daughter-in-law.
Ex-daughter-in-law, correct. But then why would that matter? Well, because some would say she traded up. Because now...
Wow.
Now she has been officially revealed as Tiger Woods' new beau.
Some would say she's traded down.
Ooh, interesting. What is your perspective on that today? Up or down? That's all you need to do is text through to us, 8168 with the first word REMA, or in the chat.
Oh, dear.
Vanessa Trump has gone from Donald Trump Jr. to Tiger Woods. Up or down? You be the judge. Now, the comment that was posted, and in fact, right now I've got an article from the BBC. You know, we went with the UK to get some, internationally unbiased perspective on all this. Posted a photo of the two of them. This is also one that's done the rounds on social media lately. Tiger Woods saying, ahem, love is in the air and life is better with you by my side. We look forward to our journey through life together. At this time, we would appreciate privacy for all those close to our hearts. I was trying to figure out what's so jarring about this, and I think part of it is, who is this addressed to? Because it starts off with love is in the air and life is better with you by my side. Oh, okay, so this is a comment to Vanessa, or at the very least about her. And then it says, we look forward to our journey through life together. So who are you addressing that to? When you say that, it feels like the kind of thing you say at a wedding to everybody else. So you've got like a congregation. Just want to let you know that we all are looking, that we've made a life announcement
Right.
to you,
Yep.
the people of the universe. And then it says, we look forward to our journey. Da, da, da. At this time, we would appreciate privacy for all those close to our hearts. So then you're also further dividing to say, I mean, what does that actually mean when you say we want privacy for those close to our hearts? Are you talking about your kids? Is that basically what that is? Or is that don't hassle our friends and
Is it
family?
a really convoluted way of saying leave us alone?
I think so. I mean, the great news is it was clearly written by him.
Also, Caroline just received your text.
Up
Rima,
or down?
up.
Yes! Love it. Get
She's
on
team
board.
up.
She's team up. All right. Tiger Woods is an up on Donald Trump.
Not Donald Trump.
Sorry, Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
but wait, hang
the
on.
game is different.
Well, okay, touche. I mean, I wonder if there's bets open for how long this will last, by the way.
By the way, another text coming through. Somebody remaining anonymous for whatever reason. Up.
2 ups. Okay. I'm surprised. Well, am I surprised? I don't know. Here's the thing with Tiger. I'm hoping that he has put his past indiscretions behind him.
Yeah, he's not as, for the longest time, that was his identity.
Oh, yeah.
And he's been able to actually shed that quite well.
Do you reckon?
Well, his return to form in the golfing world, I think, became the dominant headline.
Oh, I
the
see what you
dominant
mean.
way we thought about Tiger, and we've kind of maybe forgotten about the unsavory moment.
Well, if you leave long enough gaps between women chasing you with golf clubs, then I suppose they will create room to move on. Is it fair to say, by the way, and if you're on the stream right now, you can also let us know your thoughts on this one. Brother clearly has a type. Brother has a type. My man's likes
Wait. I'll just change the shot so we can see the type clearly for those watching the stream.
My man's likes a blonde. And that's fine. I'm just saying, like, boy, does he have it, because it's his first wife, where, said golf club was involved. She was a Nordic blonde. Then also he was dating a skier for a while, whose name escapes me.
Bro, I don't know. I didn't even know it went this deep.
Look, I'll try and find information in between stories on this. All to say, loves a blonde. Loves a blonde, does our Tiger, but remember that the only reason we're talking about this, I promise you the only reason we're talking about this, is because it was the number 12 story in the country. And maybe it was just people going, oh, who's this new woman? Vanessa Trump, let's find out about her. How was she able to capture the heart of one of the most well-known athletes, one of the most successful athletes as well? Maybe not in recent years, but in general, his record's still very impressive. So now you know. Vanessa Trump, the new beau of Tiger Woods. And remember, you can also message through up or down.
8168 with the keyword Rima, or if you're watching the stream, by the way, if you want to be watching the stream, go to rima.co.nz, but you can leave a comment below.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now something inspirational, and we start our journey around the major news services in Aotearoa. Always interesting to see what is popular based on which news service you are using. And for this one, we're going to go to One News. And the story itself actually was the number 6 story, but we thought we'd go with it because there's a certain human interest element to this that is really cool. And again, this was still the 6th most clicked on story on the One News website. The story of a Hamilton man shedding more than 100 kilos. But look, don't take it from us. Here's the story as it appears on the One News website.
Our next guest is proof that it's never too late to change your life. Now, last year, Niam Muliao Marciali'i had a health scare, which landed him in hospital. 39-year-old's weight was putting major pressure on his body. At his heaviest, he weighed in at 293 kilograms. So he decided to do something about it, and the Hamiltonian has shed more than 100 kgs and amassed tens of thousands of social media followers along the way. Niam joins us in the Auckland studio, driven up this morning. Thank you so much, Niam. It's so good to have you on the program. How are you?
Yeah, good, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Oh, a pleasure. Tell me, what sparked the hospital visit, obviously, but what sparked your journey towards wanting to lose weight?
I think at the end of it, I was just sick and tired of being sick and tired. It was, I mean, I grew up with so many dreams and aspirations, but with that being that size, that weight, and all the other things that come along with it, so many restrictions. And I guess I just had enough of it with the health scare.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to change. Yeah.
What got you in that place in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question. Probably a lot of things, but I'd say I would bury my emotions in food. I'll be straight up with it.
Yeah.
I'd lean towards food as comfort. I knew what I was getting, and I just didn't have, any discipline around how much I'd take in. And then I wouldn't be doing anything. I'd be sitting on the couch and I'd just sponsor Uber Eats drivers and just straight send it. Yeah.
So when you finally decided to make that shift, how did you do that? I'm assuming it was just a shift of the way you think, maybe little things that you kind of noticed that were getting easier?
Yeah, I guess I'm a bit of an all or nothing person. I mean, as you'll see with the eating, it's either all or just nothing. And so in hospital, I couldn't really eat.
Yeah.
So I decided, we'll use this and we'll move from hospital. When I got out, I started the 75 hard challenge, and it was a structured challenge. And so it was step by step, but because of that structure, I had something to follow.
Yeah.
And I'm good with following things if I know about it. But it was a process to kind of get on that wagon and actually trust in it, believe it, and actually do it.
Yeah.
What a legend, huh? What a legend. So this gentleman has lost 100 kgs now. Still has a ways to go, but great to see that this kind of story is so popular. Maybe I think many people looking for a way to improve their health and fitness.
Yeah.
And so this story providing a way for those who may have, say, given up or thought that there's not a way back for them.
Yeah, it's wonderful to see a hopeful and feel-good story in the trending stories from particularly One News in this regards. Not always is that the case, Andrew. We know that, being, the hosts of Trending.
Sure.
A lot of times it's the more negative news that will get a lot more play.
Mm-hmm.
But also, man, what a guy. Just like, what hope, what genuine honesty he had there in that. He's just the line that he was sponsoring Uber Eats drivers. I mean, he just said, look, I'm going to be straight up with you.
Yeah.
I think that's potentially why this was trending, because once you hear this guy's story, he's amazing. I just want to hear more.
You know what stood out to me as well, and I think this is a broader picture here. He talked about how he was masking his feelings with food.
Yep.
And for those of us who haven't struggled with weight to that extent, it can be difficult to understand or relate to how these kind of things happen, and it can be very easy to dismiss, just stop eating, stop doing it. When you realize that a lot of that kind of behavior comes from how people feel about themselves, and this is where I feel like we as a faith community can come involved. A lot of people really don't like themselves very much. And if you stopped and thought about even the voice that you use to speak to yourself, would you speak to another person with that same voice? When you make a mistake, what do you say to yourself? What do you say about yourself? We are not so different. We maybe not have the same extent of an issue that this gentleman had, but certainly something in our faith communities need to speak to that part of us that says that we are unloved, that we are not valuable, and that, we don't want to be alone with those emotions and with those thoughts. So, in a faith community, I think it's great to think too that we should really have something to offer this conversation and, potentially as well, some advice around health and fitness and well-being. But that's really the issue we're dealing with here. It's not just lifestyle habits. It's something in the heart, something in the mind that, dare I say, needs more than just a lifestyle change to address.
Oh, Andrew, I love what you've just said, because I'm also a big advocate of reminding our church communities that often we are all about the spiritual health of our congregation, those within our community, but also we are created as incarnate human beings who have physical bodies, and we do know that they are all linked together. And so actually being physical health, obviously it's maybe not the main area of focus, but not kind of just dismissing it entirely.
Yeah.
Well,
look,
for that.
Our ability to be good husbands and fathers, wives and mothers, sisters, brothers, whatever it is affected by our physical condition. And I'll say in my case, many of you will know my wife and I are on an IVF journey right now, and I'm 44 now, I think, something like that. thereabouts. You know, as the ages tick by, you kind of go a bit
I'll
blurry.
keep track of it for you.
Yeah,
Would you
thank you
like
very
that
much.
as your producer?
Yeah, that'd be wonderful. But I'll be honest, one of the things that keeps me exercising is the thought that, well, if we are successful with this, I might have to run around after a 5-year-old at 50. So if I'm going to do that, can't neglect the body. So again, great story. Easy to see why that was your number 6 story on One News over the last week.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Now, don't worry, Josh, I'm going to tackle this one because we've got some more feedback. And we welcome the good and the bad today. So I just want to say thank you, Debbie, for getting in touch. She actually said, absolutely shocked by your gossipy content regarding Vanessa Trump and Tiger Woods. Who cares about their relationship? You know what, Debbie? Fair point, and you're welcome to express that. We welcome all feedback, good and bad today. We'll say the reason we talk about it, of course, is that, well, as much as we might not like it, this was the number 12 news story in the country over the last week. A lot of New Zealanders were interested to know more, and now you know. So, again, if you ever don't like one of the stories we're talking about or have some views that go against maybe the way we've been discussing things, just like Debbie, you're welcome to send them through. We want to hear from you regardless. You don't have to like it or approve of what we say. We welcome it either way. So 8168 with the first word Rima, or of course you can send something in the chat if you're watching via YouTube or Facebook Live.
Yeah, we've got some record numbers on the stream at the moment as well.
Come on now.
So cool to welcome you in, either watching via YouTube or via Facebook. If you want to watch, by the way, you're listening at the moment, you're going, oh, I could watch this show. Head to rima.co.nz. If you are watching, hey, leave that comment below.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So then let us continue our march through the trending news stories over the last week. And now we're leaping all the way up to number 4 because it's still sport adjacent, but this story, absolutely inspirational one. Although tinged with sadness, George Foreman coming in at number 4 in the trending news over the last week.
Yeah, George Foreman sadly passing. And I didn't know the extent of George Foreman's story. Also, his faith journey, by the way, Andrew, until unfortunately his, passing, which has happened, led to him being in the trending news stories over this last week. But we've got a moment of George reminiscing himself from the Rumble in the Jungle.
This is right, the iconic fight with Muhammad Ali. But, well, let's just say George thinks of it slightly differently.
It was like I was mugged in the jungle. I went there with 2 title belts. I came home with none. Muhammad Ali was as smart as Charlie Rose and as pretty as Gayle King. What could I do? It was really strange. I thought I'd knock him out in 1 or 2 rounds, but about the 3rd round, I'd hit him and he fell on me. I thought, that's it. And he started screaming, "That all you got, George? Show me something." And I knew then I was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
The wrong place at the wrong time.
I was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Look, I think for any normal individual, if we found ourselves in the ring with Muhammad Ali, we'd say we're in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Very few people left that ring thinking this was a good choice.
Oh, man. Oh, I'm so glad I
Great
did
use
that.
of my time.
Wow.
His story, though, really, really remarkable. And in fact, I've heard before him speaking of his, religious conversion too, that happened not long after that fight. He retired from boxing, in case you're not familiar. But one of the things he talked about was that he was a fierce puncher. People regard him easily in the top 3 of the most powerful punches of all time. If you got hit by George Foreman, you knew all about it, or at least people told you about it after you woke up later.
You didn't know all about it.
You knew nothing. You're like, oh, where am I?
Yeah. You woke up a couple of days later going, what happened?
But he said a huge amount of his power came from the fact that he was carrying this huge amount of negative emotion within himself.
Oh, wow.
And so one of the reasons why he reckons he lost to Muhammad Ali was that most of his fights, George Foreman's, he won within the first few rounds. He would just absolutely destroy somebody, but it caused him to burn out quickly. So the longer the fights went, he gassed out quite quick. So because Muhammad Ali was able to drag the fight out longer, the actual knockout, there's a story behind the Rumble in the Jungle where you see him hit Foreman, and he could have hit him again, but he doesn't. He kind of sways out of the way and lets George fall over. And Ali said later that the reason for that was he wanted to make Foreman look weak. And so there's an iconic photo of him standing over him with his arm in front of his body, like, taunting him on the ground. And it's one of the most famous photos in boxing. But that was the story behind it.
Yeah, man, George's story in connection to Muhammad Ali, but even his own story is fascinating because, yeah, to hear his story of conversion post retiring from boxing, he became himself, I believe, a Baptist minister for a number of years and was a big advocate for Christianity. And it also was revolutionary because he did then return to boxing later in life. And then also, of course, we haven't even mentioned the George Foreman grill.
That was $200 million worth of income over his lifetime.
I love, by the way, I learned this. They sent him the grill.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, thanks. And he forgot about it.
Great.
And his wife started using it unbeknownst to him. And then later they got in contact, like a couple of months, and they're like, hey, did you get the grill? What did you think? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And his wife was like, I use it all the time. It's great. And so he was like, oh, well, if she loves it, I'll endorse it. Thank you to George Foreman's wife, because honestly, without her...
Wouldn't have the George Foreman grill. We just have the grill.
And that's just...
It lacks a certain something, doesn't it? So, again, George Foreman passing away. Relatively young, I would say, though. He was only, was he 76? 76 years old, but an incredible story. By the way, the movie I'd also recommend, too, if you haven't checked it out. Big George Foreman. I think we've played it on Shine TV before today. But that also kind of shines a light on what his life was like and his dramatic conversion story. And George Foreman, you will be missed.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
What else is trending this week? I'm glad you asked. This story, remarkable that it's number one trending on The Guardian in the UK because it's the story about Yemen and the USA. What a global village we live in.
Yeah, I don't know how excited the USA is to promote this story, to be honest. Also, by the way, Ross got in touch to say, awesome show. Pairing you guys together is iconic. Well, Ross, you said it, not us.
But I'll put it on a t-shirt. Ross said. New segment in the show, Ross said.
Ross
what do you reckon?
Said.
Hashtag
men.
Ross said. Well, why don't we get a bit of an update on the story first up from ABC News. This one, I've seen many people trying to say, well, it's clearly a hoax. But government departments have come out to acknowledge that this story is legit. So let's hear from the ABC and the Atlantic editor, Jeffrey Goldberg, and how he became so familiar with the US Yemeni war plans.
We're joined now by the reporter added to that classified signal thread, Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg. Mr. Goldberg, thanks so much for joining us on what is no doubt a very busy day for you. So let's start out with, I guess it was March 11th when this really starts to unfold. And business as usual, you get some texts on Signal, which is encrypted for people who are really requiring a little more privacy or security on their threads. And you tell us the rest.
I get a message request to connect with Mike Waltz, who's the National Security Advisor, or someone who's purporting to be Mike Waltz. Not an unusual thing in Washington. I'm a journalist. I've met him in the past. So I accept it. Nothing happens. I sort of forget about it. And then a couple of days later, I'm added to a group of seemingly very, very high national security officials of the United States. I think that this is a spoof. I think that someone is running a hoax.
Like a disinformation campaign at this point.
Yeah. The main reason I thought that actually was that it seemed completely absurd to me that the national security leadership of the United States would be meeting on a messaging app to discuss forthcoming military action, and that they would also sort of invite the editor of the Atlantic magazine to that conversation. So I tracked this for a while, obviously, to see what was going on and see who was trying to entrap me or trick me. There's a long conversation on Friday, the day before, about whether they should or shouldn't take this action in Yemen. It's a robust conversation. It's actually pretty impressive in some ways. They're going back and forth. A lot of resentment directed at European allies of the United States, which obviously enhanced the credibility of this chain, because everybody in the chain sounded like the people I know who are in this administration. Nevertheless, it wasn't until Saturday that I was reasonably certain that this wasn't a hoax, that I had actually mistakenly been included in a conversation of the Principals Committee, essentially the leaders of the national security community, including the head of the CIA, in this discussion of whether the Houthis should be attacked in Yemen.
Can you?
So there's more to this conversation if you want to watch the whole interview with Jeffrey Goldberg, who is, again, an editor at The Atlantic magazine. Not a magazine, too, that's very well aligned with the broader Trump ethos. Perhaps if it was somebody from Fox News, for example, or the One American Network, that might make a little more sense in people's minds. But this was a group that featured people like Pete Hegseth, also had J.D. Vance in it, Mike Waltz, not to be confused with Tim Waltz, who was the...
John Radcliffe. And serious discussions about international foreign policy and military intervention against the Houthi rebels. In, like, a WhatsApp chat.
Effectively, yeah. Yeah, Signal is like an encrypted text service.
They're using emojis. Like, there's a screenshot.
Yes.
There's a screenshot that's gone viral post this story.
Yep.
After the moment that they've decided to take some action, where Michael Waltz has given a fist bump, an American flag, and a fire symbol. Like, just, you know, the fire emoji. And
wow.
It's just... You imagine, I guess, the picture that I have of the top-level security people in the White House, in the Pentagon, doing that type of business is not happening via, like, my messaging app, like, oh, yeah, let's go for it. Good job, bros. Pound it.
Bro. You know, somewhat coincidentally, I was watching a podcast just the other day talking about the power of agency. You know, people making choices that can affect their world, you know, happening to life other than life happening to them. And one of the points that the guy made in the article was this idea that we sometimes believe there are people out there who are doing life properly, like, quote unquote, the adults, the grown-ups. You know, when you're a kid especially, like when I'm a grown-up, there's this mythology of what it will be like to have fully grasped the gravitas of what it means to be a decision-making individual. But these people don't exist. Everybody is still making it up as they go along, even into their 40s, 50s, 60s, and so on. There's never really a moment where you feel like, and I'm a grown-up now. And then you see stuff like this and go, there's the proof.
Wow. Where does that ethos come from as well? Like that idea that I hit some sort of landmark age and then I'm going to have it, because that is exactly what I used to think. But again, you are right, Andrew. In this moment, this evidence, which this story is just absolutely baffling. And if you want to weigh in, by the way, we'd love to hear your thoughts. This was #1 trending on The Guardian. This is trending. What do you reckon about the story? 8168 keyword Rima via the text, or comment below if you're watching the stream. But I mean...
Look, I'll be honest with you. The language itself doesn't actually rattle me too much, because there's a difference between how you speak when you're in a forward-facing diplomatic role versus how you might speak behind closed doors.
Right.
So the fact that there's some spicy language and some resentment about Europe not carrying their weight defensively, these are not really new ideas. The Trump administration has been particularly critical of Europe and their shirking of, say, NATO responsibilities. So I'm fairly sure most governments have off-the-record discussions about what it's like to relate to other international governing powers.
I suppose, though, it's quite jarring because we don't experience those people in that scenario. They're always put forward to us as, here's the debrief, here's the intelligence speak.
Large and in charge,
exactly.
here's me as a grown-up.
It's a media moment in front of the camera, whereas when they're speaking like bros, like literally like, what's up, bro? Like, should we do this? Like,
what's up, bro? Fist bump.
Oh, man. Like,
American flag. So good.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the thing really on a broader note that's concerning is the fact that a journalist was added to a group of people who were discussing US military strategy. There's probably a point, and we didn't hear it in that interview, but in terms of when, the journalist decided it was time to exit that conversation, you imagine the notification.
Wait. Sorry. I need to clarify something.
Yep, go on.
Did he choose to leave? He wasn't
kicked out? I'm pretty sure he chose to leave of his own accord. Well, only because the other side of this is that I am now privy to international top secret information, and I don't want to get in trouble for this. So
right.
The point I'm getting to is you imagine the moment where, they're all sitting together having these conversations about stuff, and then suddenly it says, words to the effect of Jeffrey Goldberg has left the chat. And everyone's like, what?
Wait.
Oops.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Fascinating story, nevertheless. And now let's come back to New Zealand, where, boy, we could not have a more opposite take on the wonderful world we live in. Love it. Love a dose of the spin-off in small doses. It's like having an ice cream once a week. Not good for you all the time.
Yep.
But every now and then, adds a bit of flavour to your life.
Yeah, look, if you've been a trending listener or watcher for a while, you'll know that we have this interesting love-hate relationship with the spin-off. We love particularly...
I've got no hate. I've got no hate for the spin-off.
Well, what about that article about marriage, though?
That wasn't so much hate. That was more just like...
disbelief.
Need a hug. That's a topic to cover another time. But no, in this case, of course, the spin-off tends to cover news and culture and those sorts of things with much more of a left-leaning bent. And so I thought this was hilarious because it was the #1 story on the spin-off. And hide your kids, hide your wives. The Trump lads are abundant in New Zealand. This was the headline from editor-at-large Toby Manhire, whose name you might recognise if you've been involved in New Zealand media for any length of time. But Trump lads, the Trump lads, Josh, if you had a daughter right now, would you be concerned about her associating with Trump lads?
Honestly, probably.
Really?
I mean, I don't know that I know what the classification Trump lad actually means.
Well, that's the point, isn't it?
Very, I mean, what on earth? I don't. If they are classifying themselves as a Trump lad, I'm probably going, honey, I'm sorry.
Yep.
I know you like him. Apparently, this is love that's going to last forever, even though you're just 16. But no.
What is your daughter doing dating at 16, Josh, in this hypothetical situation?
Oh, look,
what were you thinking?
No, she's coming asking to this. I wouldn't let her date till she's 25.
Exactly. 35 at least.
Yeah, sure.
But no, the story goes on to talk about Trump's historic return to the presidency and saying how it was powered by one demographic. Watch yourself. It's young men. White young men. I had to hold the desk, Josh. I nearly fell over. White young men. Goodness me. Is there anything worse in this world than white young men?
I don't know. I was one once.
Yep.
And I was the worst.
Well, that is true. Some things hold true no matter how old you are.
I'm an old man now, though.
So it goes on to talk about the media filter bubbles, the rise of the, quote, manosphere, a hashtag MeToo backlash, and I thought this was quite funny, the allure of influencers like Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, and the UFC. Now, what I love about this is it feels so much like an article that was written from a left-wing bubble trying to describe a party that you weren't invited to. So you imagine, you're in your house and you're looking through the window at some stuff that's happening at the party across the road. You're not in the house, but you're starting to assume what's going on in there. That's what this seems like. Because to bundle Joe Rogan, Andrew Tate, and the UFC all together in one go, amusing.
It lacks a level of nuance for sure.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And so, of course, this difference between the perspectives of young men and young women actually has been charted around the world, that broadly speaking, women are becoming more and more left inclined and men are becoming more and more right inclined.
Yeah, so there is some basis of truth found in this article. It seems, however, though, what it's then leading to is quite a stretch away. It is certainly making a lot of vast assumptions.
Well, there's not really a clear definition of what makes somebody a Trump lad either. In the same way, could you define a Kamala chick?
A Kamala chick? Is that a...
Well, if he's a Trump lad...
A Kamala chick?
Does it not necessitate the exact... I was talking about the John Campbell and Mike Hosking situation before, where one... you
need one.
Suggests the
seesaw only balances when you've got both.
Dare I say the yin and yang?
Ooh.
Probably not on Rima, but you get the idea. You know what I mean? If there is a Trump lad, surely there's a Kamala chick. But what makes somebody a Kamala chick?
Look, I don't know. I don't want to be either.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, it's just fascinating to see that this was something that, again, the #1 article on the spin-off over the last week. Trump lads. Do you identify as a Trump lad? If you, as a parent right now, your child came home, your daughter comes home and said, this is the new man, he's a Trump lad, are you okay with this?
What about your son?
Yeah, if he says, Mum, Dad, sit you down at the table, it's about time I told you something about myself, I am a Trump lad. Your response, people of New Zealand? 8168 with the first word Rima on the text.
Or, of course, comment below. These are the trending stories from the week that was. That was #1 on the spin-off. Trump lads.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And now to the Associated Press. This story we thought we would cover. It was number 4 on the Associated Press website, but has some fascinating permutations.
Oh, yep.
From a more trustworthy time. Now, 23andMe. Did you ever do one of these 23andMe tests?
No, my sister did, and it wasn't 23andMe, but she did one of them.
Yep.
Fascinating to get the results, but never did it myself.
So these are the websites where you would send through a DNA swab. If memory serves, it was like you'd get like a cotton swab, you do like a swab of the inside of your mouth or up your nose or
reminiscent of the
COVID swab.
Dare I invoke the name?
It's like the Voldemort of diseases. You don't say it. Don't do it
You
3
said
times.
it. I didn't say it.
That's true. That's my job. So before we go into much of a detail about this, here's the story from Forbes magazine about what's happened with 23andMe. And, if it's not covered in this video, then I'll perhaps introduce another curveball perhaps to deal with.
Genetic testing company 23andMe filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection to initiate.
Has this been voiced by AI?
Almost certainly.
Right. Anyway.
The process of selling off its assets, while the troubled firm's co-founder, Anne Wojcicki, who was attempting to take 23andMe private, stepped down from her role with the intent to become an outside bidder for the asset sale. 23andMe went public in 2021 after completing a merger with a special purpose acquisition company, or SPAC. The genetic testing company's market capitalization peaked at $6 billion shortly after going public, with Wojcicki becoming a billionaire. However, since then, the company's share price has plummeted by more than 99% as it failed to turn a profit. In 2023, the company reported a major data breach as hackers managed to gain access to user data through a recycled password attack. The sensitive stolen data was shared on hacker forums, and the sellers claimed it contained over 1 million genetic data points belonging to Ashkenazi Jews. The stolen data also reportedly featured unvalidated entries belonging to tech billionaires like Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Musk. In a press release, the company said it had initiated Chapter 11 proceedings before the Eastern District of Missouri Federal Bankruptcy Court to, quote, facilitate a sale process to maximize the value of its business. The genetics testing company said it will continue to operate its business while the asset sales process goes through, and there will be, quote, no changes made to how it, quote, stores, manages, or protects customer data. The DNA testing firm also announced its co-founder, Anne Wojcicki, was stepping down from her role as CEO, effective immediately. However, she will continue to serve as a member of 23andMe's board. Last month, Wojcicki partnered with investment firm New Mountain Capital to make a bid to purchase all of 23andMe's outstanding shares for $2.53 per share.
Blah, 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 blah. The point being 23andMe, Gomburger. Interesting, though, that we live in an age where people are so concerned about their personal data. And you even heard on that update from Forbes magazine about when that really became a reality. 23andMe, I think, began before the age of the great data breaches.
Before we lost a lot of trust.
Yeah.
In big corp.
Yeah, because before then, naively perhaps, we thought the big corps were out there to help us or something. What happens to this incredible database of genetic information that 23andMe possess? Should they go bankrupt? This is the thing that I was curious about. And look, maybe you could chime in too and say, would you want to do a test like this today? The idea, of course, being that you can find out what your ancestry is, where your ancestors might have come from. I even saw in one of the store-bought tests that was in the video that came alongside this, you could also do a ancestry and health test. So maybe that looks at various genetic markers for, I don't know, say things like breast cancer or prostate cancer or something like that. So interesting enough. But giving your genetic information to a company to hold who promises, air quotes everyone if you're just listening, promises that they will keep your information securely. I just feel like these days the level of public trust required to make this work is too low.
Well, we learnt in that video about the hacking scandal that 23andMe went through. Like, you know, it's the evidence is there. Although, quickly want to, Andrew, ask you, do you have a response to Venora's text that came through? I would be happy to know a Trump lad. I would know that he is anti-abortion. I'd know that he is pro-Bible in schools. I'd know he's pro-male, female only, and anti-woke left.
Well, there you go. Look, let us know your thoughts on this one. Of course, this was inspired by a story that was the #1 on the Spin-Off website. Talked about the rise of the Trump lad. Trump lads are abundant in New Zealand. So, yeah, we asked, how would you feel if your son or maybe your daughter's man identified as a Trump lad? How would you feel about it? But we've got a couple more stories to cover before we run out of time today.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And a question of lifestyle for you. This time we're heading to stuff.co.nz, a story that was in fact the #2 story on that website. And a simple question of where you would move to buy yourself a cheap house.
Not Auckland.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that's what. Where's off the table? Wellington?
Queenstown?
Auckland? Queenstown, that's true. Wanaka?
Yep.
Central Lakes in general, I suppose.
Stewart Island?
Stewart Island? Oh, just that's more from
It's just off the...
Right. That's not...
And personally, no offense to Stewart Island, if you're listening from there, love you.
Yeah.
I'm not moving there.
Yeah. Do you really love them though, Josh? Like it feels like you're just throwing those words in.
You're
saying it in a hollow manner, which devalues proclamations of love everywhere.
I love you, guys. I love you.
See, again, I'm not believing
I mean it
at all. Look,
seriously.
Ladies, if a man in your life ever speaks to you like that, drop him like a hot potato. Tauranga, also, as an option. You wouldn't go there. Got too expensive. Too many Aucklanders, in fact.
Is it?
Oh, yeah. You didn't know about that?
No.
We went down there. I was talking to some locals a little while ago, and they're saying how every time they went to a house auction, they got outbid by Aucklanders. Auckland refugees. But you know where it's still affordable to buy a house? The West Coast. And so that's partly why I think the story, #2 on stuff.co.nz. It has a booming job market and cheap houses, but what's it really like to move to the West Coast? So the West Coast of the South Island. There you go, Josh. Now we're making it more specific. Would you consider a move to the West Coast?
I consider it.
Yeah?
Kind of hard to do this job. I mean, if you're getting really specific, but
Well, we've got Gary, who is obviously doing our drive show. He actually has a remote studio
remote.
in Nelson.
That's a good point.
How much further is it to get to the West Coast from there? You know, the internet makes the world a small place.
I mean, it's very, very true. Me and my wife have even talked about, dare I say this because this...
Cool, here it comes, everybody.
Well, we've talked about the move to Australia, maybe.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, look, everybody's done that. Don't
Man,
you worry.
You have to.
You have to do it.
I don't want to. I don't like having that conversation.
Really?
But we look at the amount of money she could get in her role
I
in
see.
Australia.
Oh, yeah,
It's
yeah,
almost double.
Yep.
She would get moving benefits. She'd get all these other benefits. We could...
You could be a kept man.
Oh, mate, I could be a stay-at-home dad.
2025, why not? In the meantime, though, to cut down on your living costs, if you moved to the West Coast, they put up a poll, in fact, on this very article, and 56% said, yes, I would consider moving to the West Coast. Here's the thing, though. Talk is cheap. Would you really? 35% said no. 9% said already there. There's no way on God's green earth that 9% of the Stuff audience are West Coasters. No way in the world.
You don't reckon? Why?
Just because the general population of the West Coast is not that high.
Right.
You're not telling me that 9% of New Zealand's population lives on the West Coast?
Well, this is 9% of respondents, though.
Well, yeah, of course, but this is why I'm saying it's a distorted poll. Like, there's
There's
no way that 9% of these people. But I guess if you're from the West Coast, you see an article about your hometown, you want to kind of puff it up. Yes, it's the greatest place ever in the world. I would love it.
With amazing.
Yeah, so, but you're right, in terms of the work that you would like to do, I could say quite safely that just it wouldn't my wife and I are too much city people. It would never.
City slicker.
Well, yeah, actually. But know thyself, right?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And so with the moments we have remaining, let's talk about the #1 trending news story in the country, and a great time to be a New Zealander because, ladies and gentlemen, the All Whites are going to the World Cup.
Yeah,
Yes!
baby! Now, look, Andrew, I've actually got to out myself as a fake fan in this regard.
Oh, yeah? Go on.
Because after work, heading home, and I do go down to Minion Road, which, you know, if you're not local, it's kind of close to Eden Park.
Sure.
Which is where the game happened. Friday evening, heading home, I was like, oh no, it was actually just Tuesday, wasn't it?
I don't know. Not relevant for the story, Josh. Get
all
on
this
with
to
it.
say, I was like, what are you guys doing? Get off the road. I'm trying to get home. All this traffic. Where is everybody going? You blaming, mongrels? Like, just get off the road. And then I was like, And I pretend like I played a lot of football growing up. I liked football, and I've just really outed myself now as a fake fan.
Yeah, but I think most of us are kind of like this. The All Whites play so sporadically; it's very hard to follow them.
But they almost filled Eden Park. It was a packed stadium.
You know who I think you can thank for that? Auckland FC. Auckland FC, on behalf of them to the All Whites, you're welcome. They are going to the World Cup, though, and after some heartbreak last time we tried to qualify, I believe we conceded a goal in the first 5 minutes and then lost 1-0 to, was it Colombia? It was like a Central American nation.
Again, I'm a fake fan.
Fair enough. I could say anywhere right now, couldn't I? Yeah, it was Ecuador.
Yeah,
Bolivia.
yeah.
Sure it was. The point being, though, we're off to the World Cup, baby, and we did it in style. 3-0 over New Caledonia. I don't know how big a fish they are in the footballing world, but hey, we beat them, so who cares?
Look, we are going to the World Cup. When I say we, I mean, of course, the All Whites are going, but also...
That's funny, because when you said that, I thought you meant...
we better pack up right now.
Specifically, everybody listening thought, that means I've got to go
pads,
as well.
Get my high knee socks.
Exactly.
But the hope is, because in 2010...
Yes.
They went through undefeated.
And went out in the first round.
Yeah.
But we were undefeated. 3 draws is how we did it. We even got a draw against Italy too, by the way.
Yes, man, that was historic. The narrative, though, is can they win one? Can they go in and can they take just one even? Obviously, we'd love more.
Yep.
But I reckon they can do it.
I reckon they can do it. Well, time will tell, will it not? Where's the next World Cup? Like where?
Why are you asking me, the fake fan? South Africa? No.
Going once. Going twice. Stan. Yeah, good.
Brazil, maybe?
No, they've just had one in Brazil only a little while ago. Bro, the fakeness of our fandom really coming to the fore right now. We do hope they do well, and we do hope you do well as well, because that's a lot of wells. But here we are at the end of the show, and before we dig ourselves into a deeper one, we are going to say thank you so much for joining us for today. Goodness me. The stories we covered today, right? And what a perspective. Look, we're going to hang around for a little while after the show just to get your thoughts on what's been happening over the last week. Were you surprised about the stories that were the most popular? What one stood out for you? By all means, stick around and share your thoughts with us too. We're going to stay live on the live stream. If you want to join that, of course, just head to the Rima website, click through to either the Facebook Live or YouTube Live pages. But for everybody else, just again, a massive thank you for being part of the show.
The United States, apparently.
Oh, there we go. Successful.
Thank you, Google.
All Whites going to the US World Cup. Hey, we'll see you again next week. I'm Andrew Curtis. Thanks for joining me for Trending. And now we are in the live but not to radio portion of the show. Gosh, what a journey that was this week.
What a great show.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to all those who are still watching at the moment, by the way, on the stream. The show has officially concluded, but we just stick around for a little bit to, again, hear your thoughts, what's going on, spend some time with you. Were you shocked? Were you surprised by any of the trending stories over this last week?
Should we go back to the first thing that we talked about? It was completely unplanned, but we began by discussing who is the mother and father of New Zealand broadcasting. This was inspired by, in the Rima universe, of course, those of you who have been a part of the family for a while, the Rima, what do you call it? The
Rima law? Zeitgeist?
They talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
The Rima Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, that, Kathy Jenke has been a personality on air with us for, or what was at least, for many, many decades. She's now over on Sanctuary, but in a less prominent role. Still prominent, but, just winding things back a notch.
Oh, man, this iconic woman has done so much. She deserves a little bit more of a relaxed role, shall we say.
So we thought, well, with her moving on, then our very own Di Campbell is probably the longest-serving female broadcaster here. Not probably, definitely. No doubt in my mind. She would have to be, right?
If staff meeting wasn't happening this very moment, I'd go get her. I'd ask her about this. Should I quickly go check?
No, she'll want to stay up there. You know what Di's like.
Well, she might not have gone yet because it's only 2 minutes past.
All right, you know what? Yeah, go for a run.
Okay,
if she's out there, we'll see if we can bring her in.
Okay.
Hey, there we go. But in the meantime, We then crossed over to New Zealand Broadcasting and thought, you've got your Judy Baileys, right? Judy Bailey, surely, at one point in time, absolute mother of the nation status. And then we wondered who maybe the baton had been passed to. Possibly Hillary Barry for a little while. But I feel like Hillary, she could have really pushed on. I think particularly during COVID era, she was doing those fancy Friday things. Do you remember this? The Formal Friday. That was it, Formal Friday. But she seemed to have stepped back a little bit from a role that really could have been hers completely. Who else, though? Who vies for the title? No, our Die Too Diligent.
I mean, look, it was a long shot for sure because the company-wide staff meeting is happening right now.
Yeah.
We will have to go as soon as we wrap up ourselves. But as Di is, such a legend, there's no way she was going to be late for staff meeting.
Well, she loves a meeting, though.
She does love a meeting.
She loves a meeting.
She's going to love also because, these go up on the various sites.
That's true.
She's
can link this to
it. She's going to love watching this back.
Yeah, we actually had a bit of a disagreement today. She was horrified to learn that I was not thrilled at the thought of any meeting.
You hate a meeting.
Well, here's the thing. Most meetings could be 5 minutes.
Oh, do you know? Look, we're still broadcasting. This is not live on air, though, but my pet peeve with a meeting.
It could have been an email?
No.
No? Okay.
No.
All right, here we go.
And I'm happy to say
sitting
this
up on my
to
chair.
anybody,
Go on then.
is when individuals ask management a question that they could ask on their own. Why are you keeping us here when
Right.
the answer to said question only pertains to you?
Right.
Do not make me sit here and listen to your dull back and forth about how your job is a little bit tricky because you need this thing and then they say this and then you say this and I'm just like, oh, I'm going to strangle somebody. Let me leave.
Yep.
And then ask your question.
Please release me. Let me go. How's that for an old school one?
No.
Yeah. For I don't love you anymore. Yeah. No, man. I'm just not a fan. I would say, I do find, though, having people face-to-face in a meeting is helpful if you need something specific from someone. And as you know, Josh, I'm fairly adept at being, okay, this is what I need from you right now. Can you do this by this time? Great, thanks, move on. Like, that's all I need, right? True story?
I mean, he's not wrong.
Yeah. And it's not like I'm not a jerk about it. I'm just more like, hey, I need this. Can we get this by this time? For example, you might have noticed the posts that we put up on Rima Facebook right now look a little bit snazzier.
This is not the point of the pre-show, by the way.
Well, it sort of is.
It's whatever we want it to be, admittedly. So
That's true. It's also because we're not getting feedback on, the broadcaster of the nation.
Oh, true.
Mother
Well,
or
sorry,
father
I haven't
thereof.
had eyes over the
Oh, goodness me.
the chat. Well,
This-
earlier on, Christy did say John Campbell.
Yep.
We've already mentioned our viewpoint on that one.
Yep. Is there anybody else of the current ilk? I mean, as you say, you Duncan Garners. You've got now that he's on the platform, it makes me think of Sean Plunkett. But Sean's too easy to put in a box. You know what I mean? He's got that whole anti-woke thing going on. Whereas you want more of a blank slate with a mother or father of the nation, don't you think?
Yeah, there's that difference between they seemed like you could be friends with them regardless.
True, exactly. So with that said, what else? Some strong feelings about the whole Donald Trump thing, the Vanessa Trump thing, and the fact that she was the number 12 ranked story in the country. We did talk about that.
Ginny Mae Clarkson?
Nah.
Okay.
You reckon?
No, I'm just spitballing now. Just kind
Yeah.
of going through.
She's all right.
Yeah, no,
But I don't know. There's not taking anything away
It is
from
not
her.
a criticism against her, but
No.
to reach mother of the nation
She's too young.
status.
Too young.
Yeah.
You've got to have a few more miles on the clock, as they say. No, not feeling it.
Fair enough.
No.
Fair enough.
What else? Yeah, the Trump lads are abundant in New Zealand. That was great. Really appreciated that text we got through as well from Venora. It's just so funny, isn't it? How much we like to pigeonhole people, I suppose. We're very tribal, whether we like to admit it or not.
Yeah, my only criticism maybe against Venora's text
Ooh.
is you are making some assumptions there as to what a Trump lad would be.
I think she's right, though.
You reckon?
I think she's right. First and foremost, he'd be anti-abortion. Yep. Pro-Bible in schools. Yep. be pro male, female only, and anti-woke left. I think certainly the last two, unquestionably, pro male and female only. Of course, a lot of that relates to, if you're not too sure, been a lot of debate about whether or not trans women, so men transitioning to women, should be able to compete in women's sports, i.e. women who are born biologically women. Which, by the way, for some reason, that is a controversial category of human. Does that make me a Trump lad? Hang on. Dun, dun, dun. Dun, dun, dun. Pro-Bible in schools. I suppose in the US, they're a little bit more, what's the word?
They wave that flag.
Yeah, a little bit. And then being anti-abortion. See, I don't know if Trump's particularly anti-abortion. I think he's maybe limited abortion. But I know one of his moves in campaigning was basically to say drop the whole abortion thing. As like a... No, actually, it was the gay marriage thing. That was the thing that it was like, guys, stop fighting that battle, move on. He's had gay weddings at Mar-a-Lago. Make of that what you will, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Anything else before we wrap up today?
No, don't think so. But there are still a couple of people watching on the streams, on both, in fact. So very thankful that you've stuck with us for the post show of Trending. Feel free to get in touch anytime, by the way, even if you are, outside of normal trending hours, 8168 with the keyword REMA, something you might want us to touch on next week when it pops up, missing in action. There's a reason we have that segment, so we can bring those news stories that maybe weren't trending. But looks like, time to maybe wrap on up.
Nice. Hey, look, well, thanks for your company, everybody. We're going to keep working on this thing. Hey, if you can do one thing for me, recruit one more person into watching the show. And just let us know what their thoughts are. I mean, they can always send them through as well, but we'd love to cast this net as wide as we can. And of course, for you guys who've stuck around for this later part of the show, then you're the true fan. We need some kind of a fan thing, don't we? Like some kind of a reward. You can sign up.
The Trenders, they need
the Trenders. The trend. You need a name. The Trenders.
Got any suggestions?
Text them through as well. 8168 first word REMA. That's our lot for today, though. Ending the stream now. God bless. Love you. See you next week. Bye. Mwah.